owes my family an apology. More so because a lot of times he'll have this perspective of it was a joke or I was trying to be funny, and it did not land at all.
People always underestimate the calm ones, the ones who sit back, watch everything unfold, and choose their words carefully. They assume silence means weakness. They think patience means acceptance. And for a long time, that's exactly how people saw Kimmi Grant. She wasn't the loudest voice in the room. She didn't jump into every argument. She didn't chase attention or try to control every scene. Instead, she carried herself with a kind of quiet strength that made people feel safe, but also made them forget that she was paying attention to everything. But here's the thing about people like Kimmi. They don't forget, they don't ignore, they absorb, they process, and when they finally speak, it's not noise, it's truth. And baby, when Kimmi finally went off on camera and exposed Marsau Scott, it wasn't just another reality TV moment. It was something deeper, something that had been building for years, finally breaking through the surface.
Make a person feel a different way about any individual that they don't know. She doesn't know you.
That doesn't matter. She shouldn't feel that comfortable to talk to my husband about.
The energy in that room shifted instantly. You could feel it through the screen. The smiles faded, the tension got thick, and for the first time in a long time, someone looked Marsau dead in the eye and refused to let him talk his way out of accountability. What nobody expected was how sharp, how direct, and how undeniable her words would be. Because this wasn't just about one conversation. This was years of buildup finally coming out. And once it started, there was no stopping it. To really understand why this moment hit so hard, you have to go back and look at how everything was before the explosion. Kimmi has always been seen as the glue, the steady one, the woman who could walk into a chaotic situation and somehow bring it back down to earth. While everyone else was arguing, pointing fingers, and throwing shade, she was the one trying to keep things balanced. She wasn't perfect, but she was real, and that made people trust her. But behind that calm presence was a woman who had been through real-life struggles, not TV drama, not petty disagreements, real battles that tested her strength in ways most people couldn't even imagine.
Did it take her to say, okay?
I don't know.
Seconds. I wasn't even there, and I know it took seconds.
It wasn't seconds.
It was seconds.
Her health journey alone changed her perspective on everything. Facing uncertainty, going through treatments, dealing with emotional highs and lows, that kind of experience forces you to reevaluate what truly matters. And through all of that, she still showed up for her husband, for her family, for the show. She carried herself with grace even when life wasn't easy. But here's where things start to shift. Because while Kimmi was dealing with real-life challenges, the environment around her didn't always match that same level of depth and respect. Marsau Scott, from the very beginning, built a reputation for being confident, some would even say too confident. He had a way of speaking that made him sound sure of himself, like he always had the final word. And at first, some people admired that. But over time, it started to feel different. It wasn't just confidence, it was control. It was the way he would dominate conversations, the way he would dismiss certain opinions without really hearing them, the way he would turn discussions into debates where he always positioned himself as the smartest one in the room.
I wanted to make sure that no one is misled by this information. First of all, my name is Maurice Scott, Maurice Jefferson Scott, Sr. And if you're gonna do research on a Maurice Scott, make sure that you're researching the right.
And the thing is, it didn't always come off aggressive. Sometimes it was subtle, a joke that wasn't really a joke, a comment that sounded harmless on the surface, but carried a deeper edge underneath. And those moments added up. Kimmi saw it, she heard it, she felt it, but she didn't react right away. Because that's not who she is. She chooses her moments. She waits until something actually matters. And when it finally did, everything changed. The moment that sparked it all didn't seem huge at first. It started like many other conversations, people talking, sharing opinions, a little tension in the air, but nothing out of control. Marsau, as usual, stepped into that leadership role, guiding the discussion in the direction he wanted. But then he said something that to him probably felt normal, just another comment, just another opinion thrown into the mix. But to Kimmi, it hit differently. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. The tone, the dismissal, the underlying message that certain perspectives didn't matter unless they aligned with his. And in that moment, something inside her clicked. Because this wasn't new, this was a pattern, and she was tired of pretending it wasn't happening. Before anyone could shift the conversation or laugh it off, Kimmi spoke up. And the way she did it, it wasn't loud, it wasn't chaotic, it was calm, but sharp enough to cut through everything.
That this very second in his life has tunnel vision. His focus is on getting custody of Monster. I would think he would have had that conversation with me first before extending that invitation. So I'm bothered.
She told him straight up that he has a habit of dismissing people's feelings, that he talks over others, reframes conversations, and makes it seem like he's always right, even when he's clearly missing the point. The room got quiet because nobody expected her to go there. But she didn't stop. She pointed out how he often turns serious conversations into moments where people feel unheard, how he uses logic as a shield to avoid accountability, how he minimizes emotions like they don't carry weight. And the more she spoke, the more uncomfortable it got. You could see it on his face. That confidence he usually carries, it started to crack. He tried to laugh it off at first, made a joke, shifted in his seat, tried to regain control of the moment the way he always does. But this time, it didn't work. Because Kimmi wasn't backing down. She interrupted him when he tried to cut in. She stayed focused. She didn't let him redirect the conversation. And that's when it became clear. This wasn't just a reaction. This was a release. She brought up examples, real moments, situations where his behavior made people feel small, times when conversations got twisted instead of resolved. And what made it even more powerful, she wasn't speaking from anger. She was speaking from clarity. Every word felt intentional. Every sentence carried weight. And for once, Marsau had to sit there and listen. No control, no redirecting, no talking his way out of it. Just listening. The tension in that room was unreal. Everyone else could feel it too, because this wasn't just about them anymore. This was about a bigger pattern that had been ignored for too long, and Kimmi finally put it all on the table. What nobody expected was how this moment would ripple out beyond that conversation, because once something like that is said out loud, you can't take it back. The dynamic shifted instantly. People started looking at Marsau differently, not just as the confident leader, but as someone whose behavior needed to be questioned. And Kimmi? She wasn't just the calm one anymore. She became the truth teller, the one who said what everyone else had been thinking but didn't have the courage to voice. And that kind of shift changes everything. The emotional impact of that moment ran deeper than just one scene. For Kimmi, it was freeing. Holding things in for so long takes a toll. Smiling through discomfort, staying quiet to keep the peace, choosing not to react even when something doesn't sit right, that builds up over time. And when she finally let it out, you could see the weight lift off her shoulders. It wasn't about attacking him. It was about standing up for herself, about setting a boundary, about saying, I see what's happening and I'm not going to ignore it anymore. And that kind of moment changes a person. It makes you stronger, more confident, more aware of your own voice. For the people around her, it was eye-opening, because once one person speaks up, it gives others permission to do the same. It creates a space where honesty feels safer than silence. And for Marsau, it forced him into a position he wasn't used to. He couldn't control the narrative. He couldn't dominate the conversation. He had to sit with what was being said, and whether he accepted it or not, the message was clear. Things couldn't go back to the way they were. Relationships started to shift. Conversations became more real. The energy changed. Because once truth enters the room, everything else has to adjust. And here's the part that really stayed with people. Kimmi didn't lose herself in that moment. She didn't become messy. She didn't turn into someone she's not. She stayed grounded. She stayed real. She just stopped holding back. And that's what made it powerful, because it showed that strength doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like calm honesty. Sometimes it looks like a woman who has had enough and decides to finally speak. And when she does, everybody listens. The truth is, moments like this don't just happen out of nowhere. They're built over time, through small experiences, through repeated patterns, through things that get brushed off until they can't be ignored anymore. And when they finally surface, they change everything. Kimmi's moment wasn't just about exposing someone else. It was about reclaiming her voice, about choosing herself, about refusing to shrink just to keep the peace. And that's something a lot of people could relate to, because we've all had moments where we stayed quieter longer than we should have. Moments where we let things slide just to avoid conflict. Moments where we knew something wasn't right but didn't say anything. Watching her finally speak up, that hit different. It felt real. It felt earned. And it left people thinking. Because at the end of the day, it's not about who's right or wrong in one conversation. It's about growth, about awareness, about recognizing patterns and deciding whether you're going to keep accepting them or finally stand up and say something. And Kimmi, she made her choice. She chose honesty. She chose strength. She chose herself. And once she did that, there was no going back. Because the quiet ones, they don't stay quiet forever.